Welcome to Inside Farm Life, your weekly connection to agriculture newsmakers, hot-button industry issues, educational features, and the best in true country music. Now, here's your host, Brent Adams.
Well, welcome to another episode of Inside Farm Life Live, and it's great to have you with us. Our special guest today is Zippy Duvall, the president of the American Farm Bureau Federation. He's been traveling the country, hearing from farmers and ranchers about their hopes for the industry and also some of their concerns. We're going to talk a bit about that, as well as Farm Bureau's legislative priorities for the rest of 2021 and beyond. But first of all, President Duvall, welcome to Inside Farm Life Live.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being here. I'm in our nation's capital today, working out of my office. So looking forward to our conversation.
Well, it's probably pretty great to get back into the office here. It's been a bit. You've been a busy man here lately.
I have been traveling across the country, making sure that our grassroots know that their voice is getting heard and listening to their stories so I can share them here in Washington.
Well, I tell you what, you've certainly racked up the frequent flyer miles here the past couple months, going throughout the country to meet with farmers and ranchers, to learn a bit about the challenges that they're facing and some of the opportunities that are in front of them. First off, where all have you been lately, and what are you hearing from folks that you met with?
Well, I've been to Kansas, I've been to Utah, I've been to Arizona, I've been to Idaho, I've been over into Oregon a little bit on the Snake River, and then I've also been to North Carolina, Tennessee. Met with some Alabama farmers up in Tennessee, and so I've been all over the place and got a lot coming up in August.
He's been everywhere, man. That's what it sounds like.
So to talk about what the farmers are talking about, of course, if you go west, you got to talk about drought and what those farmers are suffering through out there. Up in Idaho, we was talking about the potential movement to try to remove 3 dams on the Snake River, where a lot of our agricultural products are barged down to the port, and a lot of our input stuff's barged back up, and what that might do to agriculture. And of course, over in the middle part of the country, we've had flooding, and so it's just kind of been all over the board, and the issues are there are a lot of issues out there that we're facing.
Well, one of the stops you made was Arizona, and in addition to the water challenges, you also had an opportunity to hear more about another very important issue, and that's access to workers. What does that situation currently look like?
Yeah, hopefully we're going to have an opportunity here during this Congress to find a solution to that. Of course, there's been a bill that come out of the House earlier this year. We feel like there's still some problems with it, and we need to have some adjustments made to it on the Senate side, and we're currently working with senators right now to see if we can make that a bill that would be accessible to all farmers and one that they can afford, but also provides really good jobs for the people that's coming here to work.
Well, Matt, it's been great to get out there again on the trail. I know you've been fully vaccinated since April, and you had your own battle last year with COVID. Obviously, no story has been bigger over the past year and a half than the pandemic. From what you've observed, how has COVID-19 changed agriculture?
Well, it's changed it in a lot of ways. We're very appreciative to the help that the administration, previous administration and the current administration and Congress have given agriculture to help us get through this time. But farmers are more sensitive about workplace environment. Never before have we experienced a pandemic where our farm workers may be at risk, and now we're more sensitive to that. And I think we're in a lot better position to make sure that we can manage something like that. And then, of course, we've had some terrible issues through marketing. When some of the packing plants shut down, and we had livestock that was backing up on the farms, just a terrible situation for our farmers. And then with all the bad weather on top of it, it's just been compounded.
I know there were some supply chain issues, and you guys were really at the forefront of trying to help the industry through some of those. Where do you feel like we stand today on those? And what were some of the lessons that were learned there?
I think we learned our lessons on the farm. I think we're prepared for the future. Now we know better how to handle something like that, and hopefully when you talk about the issues around, and the hiccups around packing houses or where we harvest our animals, hopefully we've got across that hurdle and they're more prepared for that. The things that came to in view to us is some of the lack in marketing areas, like we need more transparency in the beef market, so that our farmers and ranchers know more about how those prices are derived at. So we're focusing in on those things. I will tell you that a lot of the monies that have been spent out of Washington to help everybody get through COVID has got to come back to Washington, and they're trying to figure out how to pay for that. And we're very concerned about the proposals from this administration in changes in the tax structure.
Along those lines, what more can be done there?
Well, I think everybody needs to sit up and pay attention, because the proposal is that they may remove stepped up basis from our ability to use that. And if they remove stepped up basis at someone's death and makes capital gains payable at death, it will almost prevent all of our medium to small size farms from being able to turn it over to the next generation. We all know that we may be land rich because it takes a lot of land to farm, but that doesn't mean we're cash rich, cash fluid. And when you leave that to your children and they take on that tax burden without a lot of cash to pay those taxes, they may have to sell the farm, and that would discontinue that family farm. And we're real concerned about that.
And you're talking about farms that go back 3, 4, 5, 6 generations.
That's exactly right. And we're working with them now to make sure that doesn't happen. And we feel like that we have a lot of support on Capitol Hill to help us head that off. But that battle will be won by our members by being engaged and vocal to their representatives here in Congress.
Well, you mentioned earlier the transparency in the cattle markets, and one of the big stories in agriculture over the past couple of weeks has been President Biden's executive order aimed at promoting competition and fairness throughout the economy, including the agricultural sector. First of all, the Biden administration has been in place for roughly 6 months, and U.S. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack has had the opportunity to reacclimate to the position and put key people in place. What has Farm Bureau's working relationship been like with the Biden administration and the current USDA?
Well, I can't say enough good things about Secretary Vilsack. Of course, I was really good friends with Secretary Perdue, and we had a good working relationship. But Secretary Vilsack came here with a lot of experience. I've had 4 years to get to know him in his previous job before he come back to USDA here. He hits the ground running with a complete understanding of the department, what he can and can't do. And I have been very pleased with the line of communication that he and I have had between each other and our staff. So very appreciative of being able to take the seat at the table and communicate our farmers' policies to him on certain issues.
Do you consider President Biden's executive order a win for agriculture?
I think it is a win in the fact that the problems that are facing agriculture has been recognized by the White House, and it will elevate it to a point, and has already elevated it to a point that is calling for us to have conversation around that on Capitol Hill. Had a hearing on beef cattle business and pricing in the Senate, and that probably would never have happened if all this hadn't come about. So bringing the issue up, having the conversation, looking for solutions is the right way to handle things.
Well, I know we've talked before about the need for the livestock market fairness and greater transparency there, and the president's order directs the USDA to change language in the Packers and Stockyards Act that could level the playing field, not only for producers, but smaller packers, which we saw at the height of the pandemic were greatly in need. How will Farm Bureau be engaged during the rulemaking process to ensure that the interests of stakeholders such as the cattlemen and the smaller processors and even consumers be protected?
Yeah, of course, we'll be there making our comments along with all our state farm bureaus too, and we'll be very vocal on how we think that ought to move forward. But to know that they're going to take some money and invest it in small, medium, and regional packing houses and give them an opportunity to maybe afford inspectors being in their operations more and longer and help them cover that cost. All that is a very positive thing. Now, will it totally solve our problems? No, it won't totally solve our problems. But we do want to make sure that farmers and ranchers have a transparent market so that we can understand how these prices are derived, and so that our feeders and our cow-calf guys can reap some of the benefits of the high prices that we see in the grocery store and on the shelf that the packers are making. We just think there's way too much difference in those prices, that we need to get to the bottom of it and be able to find out how all stages of the beef industry can survive and thrive. Of course, we can't do without the packers, but they can't do without us. And now they're making record profits, and here we are just trying to get by.
Well, another hot button issue that was addressed by the executive order is the right to repair equipment. And much of today's equipment is driven by software, and the manufacturers don't necessarily sell those software tools to be able to repair something when it breaks, which means that farmers and independent mechanics don't have the ability to address an issue on the spot. And this order urges the Federal Trade Commission to address some of those restrictions. What's the next step here, and where would you like to see this go?
Well, of course, we as farmers would rather find an industry solution, and would with the beef industry. But even in this situation, we'd rather find a solution within the industry rather than have legislative action to try to fix it. I will say that the manufacturers are working with us on a memorandum agreement on right to repair, and we're trying to move forward with that in parallel with what the administration is going to try to do. And hopefully we can find an industry fix to that. But our farmers and ranchers pay a lot of money for that equipment, a lot. And they do it so that they can plant, grow, and spray and harvest their crops on time, and make sure that they can work in between the different types of weather and still be successful. And when you roll into the field after you pay that kind of a price for a machine, and it doesn't want to work, and you got to wait on somebody from a distance to either get on a computer or come to your farm to fix it, is very difficult. And it's hard for us to accept, especially with the prices that we're having to pay for that equipment. But we totally understand the programs that are owned by the manufacturers, but there's got to be some way that we can work out an agreement where we can be able to choose the people we want to work on our machinery.
Well, aside from the matters covered in the executive order, trade remains a key focus for many in agriculture, and the Biden administration has had some time now to kind of outline its priorities for that. For the best interest of agriculture, what do you believe those priorities should be?
Well, the priorities is tear down those barriers, put us on a level playing field with all the rest of the world, and the American farmer will compete and beat anyone in the world. I'm totally confident of that. There's a lot of things that go along with trade, though. It's infrastructure. You'll probably ask me about the infrastructure bill before it's over with, but our infrastructure, what separates and divides us from the rest of the world, we can deliver it on time. We can deliver quality. We can deliver it anywhere in the world and all they want, just about. So that sets us apart from the rest of the world, and that's why people want that USA stamp on it, and that's why they want American agricultural products. But we got to tear down the barriers and have a level playing field. We had the privilege of having Ambassador Ty, the U.S. Trade Ambassador, visit with our presidents, our Council of Presidents, just last week, and she told us that she wanted to move forward and find ways to continue this agreement with China. It has been very positive for agriculture, and the acceleration of purchases of grains going into China has really helped our farmers and ranchers, and has helped influence the price of our commodities. And that's one of the bright spots right now is the price of the commodities.
From the outset of the Biden administration, they've made it clear that sustainability and climate were going to be a big focus here. What do you hope to see accomplished with climate change, sustainability, and also carbon sequestration? And how are the Farm Bureau members doing their part?
So, we knew that regardless of who won the president's election, that Congress was going to have a conversation about climate. We all joined together 10 years ago and fought that movement back with Don't Cap Our Future. But now it's a different situation. There's more people involved in it. The general public is emotionally attached to climate change and issues and policies. And so, as agriculture, as a leader of one of the largest or the largest general farm organization in the country, we had to try to find some way to lead the conversation because we knew the conversation was going to be had. So we joined up with other groups. It's an alliance. It's a historical alliance. It's made up of groups that we don't totally agree with all the time. They're environmental groups, food groups, agricultural groups, forestry groups, and we found common ground on 3 principles. We developed 40 recommendations that end up going to Congress and actually dominated the conversation about climate change or climate policy when we were speaking about agriculture. And it has been very effective in controlling the conversation on the Senate side and helping them pass through the Growing Climate Solution Act, which passed bipartisanly with 92 votes on it. So we know that this Congress can, with bipartisan support, get some work done. But I'm real proud of the participation that we've had with these other groups to try to lead the conversation so that we made sure that farmers got treated like partners in the days to come when we start implementing this.
Well, I know we talk about this issue, and it's a big issue, a broad issue, kind of hard to get your arms around. How do farmers at the local level cut through all the noise and really understand how they can play their part in all this?
So I'm assuming you're talking about participating in the process of making policy.
Right.
Yes. So, a perfect way to do that is join your county farm bureau. Our policy book comes straight from county farm bureaus, from farmers there, and it talks about every issue that might face us in agriculture. And we need for them to be a participant in helping build our policy. And then we need to be them to be an engaged member and answer the call to action when we know that there's going to be a bill voted on up here in Capitol Hill that affects them each and every day, like taxes. Right now, all of our members and everybody out there that needs to be a member of our organization needs to be calling their senator and their congressman saying, you can't do away with stepped up basis. If you want to maintain the small, medium size or family farm, you got to make sure that we can hold on to that exemption so that we can continue to pass our farms on from generation to generation. And don't let them hand out pennies to us, because there is talk of an exemption, but the exemption is just a delay of the tax that will come someday to some generation.
Well, I saw a question pop up just about the time that I asked that from Megan McDowell, who was asking, how do we at the state level assist our membership to understand the ever-changing dynamics with the current administration? So I hope that answered your question, Megan, because I think the key there is just getting involved and knowing who your representatives are and really just bending their ear on these issues.
Yeah, you can go to our website. You can read all about the issues and see the action alerts and participate in this organization that we're working so hard to try to represent our farmers and ranchers across the country.
One other issue I know you and I have talked about quite a bit over the past couple of years has been the waters of the U.S. and the navigable waters protection rule, and all indications are that the Biden administration appears poised to revisit that and revise the definition of what waters of the United States means. I know this hits close to home for the Farm Bureau because you guys worked really closely with the Trump administration on the wording for the current act. And I know the EPA has said that they're going to seek input from ag stakeholders to make sure that they come up with a definition that takes into consideration all interests. But all of this leads me to wonder, will we in our lifetime see this issue largely settled once and for all, or is this widening and tightening of the definition always going to be this political hot potato that puts farmers and ranchers in the middle of an exhausting and frankly expensive battle?
You're exactly right. We feel like we're in a ping pong table being bounced back and forth from one extreme to the other. But I do feel like we have had Administrator Regan with the EPA visit with the Council of Presidents last week, and the way he illustrated his approach was the 2015 definitely had some problems, and the waters of the U.S. rule before that had some problems, and in his opinion, the Trump administration rule has some problems, and he would like to identify the problems in all three and try to blend them together to come up with something. And he is committed. He has verbally committed to us that he will allow farmers and ranchers and stakeholders to have a seat at the table. And so we're looking forward to those conversations. We want to make sure that their ruling will still give us clear rules so that we can provide clean water for our country, and without having to go to very extreme expense through lawyers and consultants to be able to abide by the law. But you're exactly right. We need to find that right rule, and we need to keep it that way and not let from administration to administration beat us back and forth from one side of the table to the other, because it is expensive on our farmers.
Well, you brought up infrastructure earlier. Another recurring issue we continue to keep front and center here is this push for expanded rural broadband. And I know there are a couple of House bills out there that would help further the USDA's Reconnect program, which has made some inroads in providing service to rural communities throughout the country. Still, much work is left to be done there to close that technology gap in rural America.
Yeah, that gap, broadband is not a luxury anymore. It's a necessity, not just for farmers, but for our rural communities. Young people that go to college and get a job, they're not going to come back to their rural community if they don't have broadband. We can't expect our rural communities to grow and thrive with businesses and agricultural farms and ranches expanding without broadband. And we're telling that story all over Capitol Hill. So we want to make sure not only does it come to that rural city or town in our rural areas, we want it to go out and beyond those boundaries to make sure that our farmers have that access. The American people want us to be sensitive to climate. And in climate, smart farming practices, we have to have broadband to utilize every piece of machinery and every tool that's in the toolbox to be able to help our country fight the climate change that they all want us to fight. We do the best job of any agriculture in the world. We lead the world in producing less than 10% of emissions, where no one else can match that. We're leading the world, but we can continue to even do more if we can be treated like partners.
What else within that infrastructure bill is Farm Bureau keeping an eye on?
We want to make sure that the dams and locks, the roads and bridges, a lot of secondary roads, so that we can get our commodities out to the market and also get our input materials back to the farm so that we can continue to grow the food and fiber for this country. That is a big piece. And then also, I don't want to forget, I consider research and development dollars as part of infrastructure. With China spending $3 try one in research and development, shame on us. We should be leading the world in research, and agriculture depends heavily on the research that's going on to keep us on the cutting edge so that we can be more competitive.
One issue that Farm Bureau has kept front and center has been mental health on the farm and in rural America, and through the Stronger Together initiative. How is the organization working to continue to break down that stigma surrounding mental health and treatment and connecting people to the resources they need to address mental health challenges?
We just want to stay out in front of that and make sure that our members are alert and working with our families and our neighbors and making sure that we tell people it's okay not to be okay. Let's talk about it. I don't know that if you know it, but I lost my wife a year and a half ago, and I went through some very dark days, and you can bottle that stuff inside of you, and I did in the beginning, and it will destroy you mentally. And so once I started talking about it, the pressure was like letting the pressure off a pressure cooker, if we all know what one of those used to look like. And then you started to heal from the inside. And it's the same way. The troubles that we're going through in agriculture, and a lot of our farmers are already removed themselves because we spend a lot of time out on the farm and in the barns by ourselves. We need to seek out help, and through our website and our mental health programs, you can find a lot of resources there. But we as members need to treat mental health like we would a disastrous storm that come through the community. If someone's hurting after a storm come through and their fences are torn down and the barns blown down, who shows up? Your neighbor, and you do everything in your power to help them. Mental health is no different. We have to take care of each other. We got a big job to do to feed the world and our country, and we need our farmers healthy to be able to do that.
As we come down the stretch here in 2021 and look to the future, what are some of the key legislative priorities and issues that are on Farm Bureau's radar right now?
Well, we've talked about most of them. It's all about taxes. It's all about waters of the U.S. It's all about infrastructure. Farm bills coming up real soon. We'll be putting our Farm Bill study group together real quick, and we'll start talking about how we strengthen our risk management tools in the Farm Bill, how we strengthen Title I, how we grow conservation programs in the Farm Bill. So we're going to be real focused on all those things. But we need not forget, we got farms and ranches out west with drought. We got farms down the Mississippi River that's been flooded out, thousands and thousands of acres of land. And we got to make sure that we find a way to be prepared for that next disaster. It's just not fair to declare a disaster, a farmer lose his crop and potentially lose his farm, and then 18 months or 2 years later, Congress finally decides to help them. If we're going to have disaster help and aid, it needs to come timely, where we can keep people in business and get them on their feet and get that next crop in the ground.
Well, after going virtual in 2021, this would be a good time to get in an early plug for the 103rd American Farm Bureau Federation Convention, which is going to be held January 7th through the 12th in Atlanta. How excited are you for everyone to reconvene in person and do it in your home state?
Hey, I'm real excited. I just hope the weather's good in Atlanta when they come. Last time we was there, it was sleet and snow, and no one could get around. But hopefully the weather will be good that week. We've been working on being stronger together, and I think the pandemic helped us be stronger together. We found ways to continue meeting. We found ways to continue to be engaged. We found ways to answer questions and solve problems during the pandemic. But now we're going to grow together. We're coming out of this pandemic. We're going to start growing together so that we can continue to be strong as we come forward. We're planning right now, just a real exciting agenda. Hopefully, we'll be able to maintain the attendance we come off of in the last convention. We're just really looking forward to it. And if anybody wants to come to the hopefully sunny South in January, we hope they will come to Atlanta, Georgia, and enjoy their National American Farm Bureau Convention.
Well, it's such a great time for members to connect and learn and help set the organization's policy agenda for the coming year. For more information about that, make sure you go to fb.org and look under the events tab. And so as we wind down our time here today, I know you're extremely plugged into what farmers and ranchers and others in the agriculture industry are saying. So I want to ask you this. What are the biggest challenges facing American agriculture today?
Biggest challenges facing American agriculture, I would tell you, is labor. We have the resources, we have the land, we have our kids in ag schools coming out with great degrees, and to do that, bring them back home to the farm, we have to expand our businesses, expand our farms, and we can't do that without good labor. And we need a reliable source of labor, and it's time for us to fix that and make sure that the labor that we have can continue to stay here and work in agriculture. And of course, the other thing is what's going to make us one of the problems is keeping our people engaged. You know, a lot of people they get frustrated and they just want to throw their hands up in the air and say, I've had enough. I'm not doing it. Watching 24-hour news, I think it's terrible and nothing good's going to happen. I would challenge you that you need to be more engaged today than ever before. Because if we're not engaged, we're going to receive what's sent to us. Let's control the conversation. Let's lead the conversation. And let's make sure that our grassroots and our farmers and ranchers are engaged. And we would love for you to be part of our family, to be engaged with us and making sure that we move the needle and make the future of agriculture positive, not negative.
Well, along those lines, what do you see in terms of ag innovation and cooperation among the many stakeholders in ag that gets you excited about the future of agriculture?
You know, I continue to see precision planting, precision agriculture grow, and all the new ideas that are coming out, whether it be just, spraying an individual weed to conserving water. You know, it's just amazing hearing some of the technologies that are coming. And I just can't wait. Everyone should be excited about what the future holds for American agriculture and our ability to produce for a hungry world.
Well, before I let you get out of here, what's up on your travel itinerary here for the coming weeks?
Well, I'm leaving Sunday morning early. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get to go to my church, but I'm leaving to go to Monterey, California. I will be meeting with all the Western the state presidents out there to talk about the drought and issues that are facing them. And then I'm coming back to Colorado to spend some time there with some farmers and ranchers to end the week up. And then later on in the month, I'll be in the Dakotas for the Farm Fest and Dakota Fest. Look forward to seeing all the farmers up there out looking at machinery and kicking tires like we do best.
Well, it's great to see that stuff coming back, and we can't wait to hit those trails too. And I know we touched on this earlier, but one more time, if folks aren't currently involved in Farm Bureau, why should they be involved, and how can they become involved?
You know, my dad taught me a long time ago, if you want to make a difference in your family's life, your farm, and make a difference in your community, then you got to get outside your fence rows. Get out of your tractor, make part of your budgeting of your time, part of it to get outside your fence row and be part of a organization. I would encourage you that would be Farm Bureau, but be part of an organization where a collective group of voices can actually get something done. One voice in the night might be heard, but a crowd's voice in the night will definitely be heard. Be part of our family, and I promise you won't be disappointed.
Well, President Duvall, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on the Inside Farm Life to share your passion and to catch us up on these issues. We'd love to have you back in early January to kind of recap 21 and look ahead to 22, and also to give us a more detailed look at what people can expect for the convention.
I look forward to doing that, and I just hope everybody has a good rest of the growing season and an unbelievable harvest. And I just want to say God bless you. To you and all the farmers across America.
Absolutely. God bless you, and thank you again. And we want to thank everybody for joining us today. And if you're a fan of true country music, I'd love to invite you to come back here with me again today at 6 p.m. Eastern. As Grand Ole Opry star Erin Enderlin is going to join me to talk about her new single, Somebody's Shot of Whiskey, which you can find now wherever you download or stream music. As well as we'll talk about how she's weathered the pandemic and what her touring plans are for the rest of the year. Again, that's at 6 p.m. Eastern today, right here on the Farm Life Facebook page. So go get some work done, maybe grab a bite to eat, then let's reconvene here a bit and have some fun. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Inside Farm Life podcast. You can do that at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Deezer, Audible, and Odyssey, where each week we bring you the best in agriculture newsmakers, hot button industry issues, agriculture features, and the best in true traditional country music. We'd love for you to take us with you in the tractor, the combine, the sprayer, the shop, or wherever you are. That's the Inside Farm Life podcast. Well, our time is up here, friends and neighbors. Again, a special thank you to American Farm Bureau Federation President Zippy Duvall for joining us. For now, it's Brent Adams. Let's meet up here again at 6 p.m. Eastern, shall we? And hey, bring along a friend.
You've been listening to Inside Farm Life, a production of FarmLife Media. If you have topic suggestions for future episodes, drop us a line at brent@farmlifemedia.com. And be sure to check out our website, farmlifemedia.com.